Hello friends. Today we'll be discussing about some of the questions that is asked in geography between 2015 and 2019. All the questions we are not discussing. Some of the questions we'll be discussing today. And somewhere I understand most of the question what we are discussing today, it also has a relevance with the chapters like environment. Right, my dear friends. One means we'll start one by one. See, 2015, there is one question. Let me read the question. Right. The question says, which one of the following regions of India has a combination of mangroves, mangrove forest, evergreen forest and deciduous forest? See, generally we say, let us not approach the questions in the examination in purely a factual manner. Right. Say for example, it is not at all needed to memorize that where all we have this evergreen forest, where all we have deciduous forest, where all we have this mangrove forest and so on, right. Go by logic. See, for example, in that regard, if you ask me where all we have this mangrove forest in India, all the states and union territory, right, which has a coastline, the littoral states of India has this mangrove vegetation. Only by size it differs, right. But I understand all the coastal states of India and union territories, they have this mangrove forest, right. If that is the case, what exactly in examination I have to do? I have to go by exceptions, right. And please read the questions, and somewhere I said some of the words becomes very, very important, my friends. Here if you ask me which word is that which is very, very important, you can find this word called as and. It means what? All this forest should be there, right. Right, all the forest should be there. So if that is the case, what I'll do, somewhere in this almost three given forest, mangrove forest, evergreen forest and deciduous forest, I'll go for exception. If you ask me what is an exception, where I have the least number of states coming under this forest, right, almost the extension of forest, it is evergreen forest, my friend. Now, what is the logic? Say for example, mangrove forest, all coastal areas I have mangrove forest. Now comes evergreen forest, right. See, going by forest, mangrove forest, you cannot almost arrive at a right answer. Because why? All the given options, they have a coastline. In that regard, if you ask me, evergreen forest, generally we have an idea, evergreen forest, right, will normally be present at the place where you experience par moist climatic conditions, my friend. Par moist climatic condition. Now, what is this par moist? Layman's understanding, what is par moist? Whichever region is very wet. Right. See, if you want, you can go by facts, but otherwise it is not needed. Right. You close your eyes and just imagine and ask yourself the question, which part of India is extremely wet? Right. There comes the answer. Right. Western side of Western Ghats, or simply you say it is west coast of India. Correct. Apart from that, it is northeastern states, my dear friends. Northeastern states, except barring the exception of what Sikkim, the erstwhile seven sisters, they are par moist in climatic condition, and both the island territories of India, that is Lakshadweep and Andaman, right, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, right, and Lakshadweep, my friends, they experience what? Par moist climatic condition, right, except this Lakshadweep. When I talk about par moist climatic condition, this is the place where you have this evergreen forest. So somewhere I understand all this forest has to be there. So in this regard, from the given option, I have to come to a conclusion, okay, fine, which, right, almost region given, right, is well accommodated within this region, right. Lakshadweep, if you want, you can include, right. North coastal Andhra Pradesh, is it included here? No, not included. South western West Bengal, right. If that is the case, I understand. If you are there in the eastern side, right, if you are there in eastern side, say somewhere when I talk about almost Siliguri corridor, very near to the Siliguri, right, that is the eastern side. They are talking about the western side. Again, it is not included. Right, southern Saurashtra, Gujarat, not included. So what is the answer, my friend? Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So somewhere, right, I advise in examination, go by exception, right. Whichever is least, right, if at all, if you know that this is an exception, very easily I can mark it, select it and go for deduction method, right. And the reason why I have just selected evergreen, because only few limited regions in India, we have this evergreen forest. I hope you know the meaning of this evergreen, right. So throughout the year, the canopy, green canopy of the forest will be maintained, correct. Word itself says, right, evergreen, correct. Throughout the year, right, it will be green in color. Right. So fine. So given answer for this question is what? Andaman and Nicobar Islands, my friend. Right. Question number 2. 2015, this question was asked. Consider the following rivers. See, generally I say in examination, 7 rivers are very important. Most of the questions, if at all they are asking about tributaries and distributaries, these 7 rivers has to be right, almost. See, for example, the major tributaries of this river has to be remembered, right? What are they? In northern rivers or Himalayan rivers, 3 rivers are very important, right? Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra. Not only the river basins, let me call it as, right? The tributaries and distributaries. Similarly, when I talk about the peninsular rivers, there comes 4 rivers. It is Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri, right? Now the question is about Godavari river, my friend. Consider the following rivers, right? See here, 2 ways you can almost arrive at a right answer in examination. Once you read the question, you know what is the answer. Otherwise, what cannot be the possible answers, you try to remove it. In that regard, right? Most of us, we know that Penner, sometimes also called as Penneru. This Penneru or Penner river is itself is an independent river. When I talk about the 13 major river basins in India, Penneru river basin is one such river basin. So it is an independent river, which lies exactly between the Krishna basin and Kaveri basin. So somewhere I know Penneru itself is a separate river. If you are very much sure that Penneru is a separate river, so wherever 4 comes in your option, you can remove it, my friend, because you know this is not a tributary of what? Godavari. So where all 4 comes, the option B you can remove, option C you can remove. So you have a choice between what? A and B, correct? A and B. So only thing is that what decides is Vamsadhara, right? See, Vamsadhara is again a very small independent river, right, which flows between, right, Godavari and Mahanadi, right? Vamsadhara is an independent river. So in that regard, if you ask me what are the major rivers, right, major tributaries of Godavari, it is Indravati and Pranhita, right? So your option is D. 2 and 3. See, for example, examination, sometimes when it comes to tributaries and distributaries, it is difficult in remembering all the names, my friend. But sometimes you can make this question as a 50-50 choice. What is this 50-50 choice? Say, for example, out of the 4 options which is given, I have successfully eliminated 2. In this regard, in this question, assume that I am not aware of Vamsadhara, right? I am not aware of Vamsadhara. If that is the case, my choice lies between A or D. Now imagine a condition that you do not know what is the answer. You do not know. You are not very sure about Vamsadhara. Now comes the question, will you attempt this question or not? If you ask me, I say 100% you should attempt such type of questions, what I call it as what? 50-50 questions. Say, for example, you have to make a choice between A and D. But I do not know Vamsadhara, I am not aware of it. Assume, put it somewhere like this, right? If that is the case, still I want to take a decision, my friend. See, perfectly I am just going by this law of probability. If I am just going by law of probability says 50% there is a chance you will be right, 50% there is a chance that you will be wrong. Still go for it. See, for example, assume in examination I have 30 such questions which falls under this category called as 50-50. 30 questions. Blindly, if I am just following this law of probability, my friends, blindly, right? 15 questions will go right and 15 questions will go wrong. How much I will be losing for this 15 questions, right? Say, for example, 1/3, I will be losing -5, right? So somewhere I can add plus 10 questions, my friend, right? If I am just adding plus 10 questions, converted, it comes to 20 marks, right? So somewhere I am just putting a point, please do not avoid this 50-50 questions in examination. Even if you do not know Vamsadhara, take risk, right? Calculated risk has to be taken in the examination, right? Fortune favors the brave, my friends, right? So somewhere 50-50, at least this kind of questions, try to make it as 50-50, correct? See, you may argue, now, say for example, always it is not 15 correct and 15 wrong. It can go other way. Yes, it can. But I bet right, it will never make you to get negative marks. If you are very lucky on that day, this plus or this correct can become 18 and wrong can become 12. If you are not so lucky on this day, it can get reversed. This is the universal distribution, correct? So just go for it, right? So 2 questions we have discussed. Coming to the third question, the same year. What explains the eastward flow of equatorial countercurrent? This is one of the very important question. Say for example, in my perception. Why I tell you? Because in 2015 this question was asked. Normally UPSC has practice, convention. Answer key will not be released immediately after the examination. Only when the final result of that particular year is published, only then, right, UPSC comes with what? Publishing this answer key, right. Why I am insisting is very simple, my friend, because 2015, right, most of the institutes, right, they have given an answer, right, and when UPSC came up with the answer key, it was completely different. Even today, if you are searching in net, right, most of the time, right, what you will be finding, right, most of the institute, they would have given the answer A, or some of the institute would have given the answer called as D. But if you are searching UPSC, go for UPSC site, go for search 2015 question in UPSC. Right, just see that which means, say for example, A series, what is the question number, right, this question was asked, and accordingly the 2015 answer key, you check it, my dear friends, right. What is very interesting, UPSC has given this option called as convergence of 2 equatorial current, right. We'll understand why. This is one of the difficult questions because the answers are very closely related, right. See here, what makes the difference? See, for example, if you ask me, see, this question is about equatorial countercurrent. They are not asking about equatorial current. If they are asking about equatorial current, say for example, assume I have north equatorial current, I have south equatorial current, right. Every oceanic basins, I have this currents, north equatorial current and south equatorial current. If you ask me why I have equatorial current, that is because of what? Rotation of Earth. Earth rotate in west to east fashion. So what happens? Exactly in opposite direction, right? I have the movement of water moving from what? East to west. But this is with respect to what? Equatorial current. But the question is with respect to counter equatorial current, my friends. And why very easily this current flows towards the west, if you ask me? Because we do not have any wind, right? This region is known as doldrums, my friend. Doldrum. Equatorial region is known for doldrum, a very calm region, right? You do not have any wind. So that's the reason this current, right, or this equatorial current very easily move towards what? West. There is no opposition by a wind, right? When I talk about this option A or option D, it is with respect to equatorial current and it is not with respect to what? Counter equatorial current. So what happens? This equatorial current, when it gets piled up, my friend, when it gets piled up along the coastline, right, along the coastline, say for example, I have this north equatorial current getting piled up along the Asian coastline, south equatorial current along the oceanic coastline. What happens here, right, you almost get a surplus water, right. I understand the surplus water gets diverted in both the oceans, right, both the basins of the ocean, northern oceans and southern oceans. But what happens? Part of the surplus water again retraces the same path. Now comes the question, why this water retraces the same path? Because it is because of the surplus that is created by what? The equatorial current. Now if that is the case, can I say, right, why exactly I have counter equatorial current? Because I have 2 equatorial current converging along the coastline makes a surplus, and the surplus water partly it moves in the same direction, right, or I should say in the opposite direction. So if that is the case, what will be the best explanation for having this counter equatorial current? It is convergence of 2 equatorial current, my friends. It creates a surplus, right, it gets piled up along the coastline, part of it goes to the northern basins and part of it goes to the southern basin, but part of it also retraces the same path, right. So the best option, again let me tell you, Examination, please do not look for the right option. Look for the best option. What is the best option? Among the four, what is best? Please choose it, right? So if that is the case, the best explanation, what explains the eastward flow? The eastward flow of counter-equatorial current is the convergence of two equatorial currents. Again, I repeat, if you are just searching in net, any institute would have normally given rotation of earth or occurrence of belt of calm region near equator. But refer UPSC, UPSC has given, UPSC key has given this particular statement. Okay, right. Okay. Question number 4, one of the easiest question, my friend. And this is a very popular questions normally we say. Normally you see this climatic classification. We have different climatic regions of the world, right? At least 13 distinct means climates are there in the world. So normally what happens, UPSC will start describing the character of this climate. Only thing is that you have to identify that which type of climate, right, they are talking about. So accordingly, they have described a climate and you have to identify that which climate best suits it. Which of the following region is described in the above passage. And there, every climate has a very unique feature, my friend, right? If not unique, we call them as what? See, something like co-prime numbers, right? You can understand what is a co-prime number. Individually, this number may not be prime, right, prime number, but if at all, if it is almost, say for example, if it is making a pair, it becomes prime. Something I call, if at all, if it is making a pair, it becomes very unique. Something like that, right? Sometimes individually this climate can be unique, or sometimes together it can become what? Very unique. So only thing is that from the statement, you are supposed to pick that unique features, right? Let me read the statement. Each day is more or less the same. Got it? Each day is more or less the same means what? Right, it means throughout the year you are not going to experience the difference in the length of the day. Almost every day is more or less same. There itself you got it, my friends. Right, if you are reading the statement, it clearly says this climate, right, or this region do not experience seasons. What is the season? We have 4 distinct seasons, right? Forget about spring and autumn. At least I have 2 binary season classification. Summer versus winter. What is summer? Okay, you call them as hot days, I accept it. But summer is more described by what? Longer days, right? Winter is shorter days. But when I talk about each day is more or less same, means what? There is no difference between summer and winter. Or let me say, there is no summer, there is no winter. The only region in the world which do not experience a season cycle is equatorial region, my friend. Directly you got the answer. Very first word, you got the answer. But still, if you want to read it, you can read it. Sometimes what happens, it adds credibility to your options, right? Because you are going to take a decision. Sitting in the examination, never you will know whether it is a right or wrong answer. Okay, only thing is that you have to convince yourself that this is the right answer. So you read it further. The morning is clear and bright with a sea breeze, right? As the sun climbs high in the sky, heat mounts up, right? It is known for, right, high temperature. Dark clouds, rain-bearing clouds, cumulus clouds. Then rain comes with thunder and lightning, but rain is soon over. Again, when I talk about equatorial region, every day it rains, almost. I use this word called as almost. Almost every day it rains, right? Very popularly you call them as what? 4 o'clock showers, right? Just to mean that evening you will be having this, right, the precipitation taking place every day, right? You call them as what? Convectional precipitation, right? So this is just to add credibility to your answer, okay, or the decision what you are making. So again, it's a very straight, direct question. Answer is equatorial region. Question number 5. In India, which one of the following types of forest teak a dominant tree species? You can close your eyes. Somewhere you can imagine. See, for example, you would have wandered around India, right? Most of your travelers, that's what your hobby part says, right? You travel. Just imagine, just see that where exactly you would have seen this, say for example, this teak as a dominant tree. Okay. If at all, if I am just, okay, something strikes my mind. right? Try to almost identify the nature of the forest, how exactly this forest may look like. And one more thing, when I talk about the teak as a tree, right, this is a deciduous tree. Right, what is this deciduous and evergreen? See, earlier also we had almost talked about one questions, right? Evergreen. What is evergreen? Throughout the year, the green canopy of the forest will be maintained. Means what? The trees may not shed its leaves together, correct? But when I talk about teak, right, one part of time or one period of an year, it becomes completely empty, right? Right, only the branches along with the trunk of the tree will be standing, leaves will not be there, right? If at all, if the entire forest shed its leaves together, you call them as what? Deciduous forest, right? When I talk about the extent of forest in India, right, the largest forest, right, under the spatial extent we have in the deciduous forest, right? So any region normally I imagine, say for example, I am there in eastern Karnataka, right, I am there in Andhra Pradesh, I am there in almost the most part of Tamil Nadu, right, what I understand, I find this teak cultivation, right. If that is the case, right, normally put it, they are almost confined to what? Deciduous forest, right. Don't worry about this moist or dry. Whenever you have a comparison between moist or dry, then you have to take this word very seriously. Otherwise, here it is general differentiation. Deciduous forest versus, right, tropical rainforest is nothing but what? Evergreen forest, my friend. Evergreen forest, right? Tropical thorny, right, thorn scrub forest, no. Grassland forest, temperate forest with grassland, no, right? So directly you got the answer, right? It is deciduous forest, right? See, imagine, what is a deciduous forest? Again I say, entire forest will be shedding its leaf together, right? Right, it becomes almost, what do you call it? It means the forest may not retain its green canopy cover, right? You call them as what? Deciduous, right? And deciduous is the most dominant, spatially if you ask me, which is the largest, right, almost a forest type, what it is present in India, it is tropical moist deciduous forest, or simply you say tropical deciduous forest, right? So question number 6, again see, this forest type and the distribution of this forest type, we have plenty of questions being asked in that, okay. So in that regard, when I talk about question number 6, say consider the following states: Arunachal, Himachal, Mizoram. Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh and Mizoram. In which of the above states do tropical wet evergreen forest occurs? You please remember, tropical wet evergreen forest, everything you forget about it, only take this word, evergreen, right? Evergreen. What is the evergreen, you know? Already we have discussed it. When exactly you will be having evergreen forest, the condition should be par moist, very wet. Technically, if you ask me what is very wet, right, statistical information says, if a region receives more than 200 centimeters of annual precipitation, right, you consider that it is very wet, right. Now you know the facts, right, only 4 regions in India have this par moist climatic condition, right. Only 3 regions in India have evergreen forest, because Lakshadweep we do not have this evergreen forest, okay, because it is a coral island, right. It means the root penetration may not be supported, that's the reason you do not have this evergreen forest in Lakshadweep normally, right. Mangrove vegetation is there, but generally when I talk about this evergreen forest, it is missing in what? Lakshadweep, right. Otherwise, right, you know the place. What are the places where you have par moist or evergreen forest? Right, western coast of India, right, northeastern states, Andaman and Nicobar Island. So if you have this idea, just see whether this, right, states present is in this region. Arunachal Pradesh, northeastern state, yes. Himachal Pradesh, no, it is not in northeastern state. Mizoram, it is northeastern state. Over 1 and 3, you got the answer, my friend, right? So eliminate it. What cannot be the possible option, eliminate it, right? Question number 7, tides, right? Tides occur in the ocean and sea due to which of the following? See, what is a tide? Most of you will confuse tide with waves, right? See, what exactly, whenever you're standing in the ocean or a sea, assume that you're going to a beach, shore, right? You're almost enjoying the surfing and backwash of the water, right? So water comes, water surfs, touches your feet, goes back. This is what you call them as what? Surfing and backwash, Right, somewhere I understand it means surfing and backwash itself is the result of a wave, right? That is wave, right? What you are seeing standing in the beach is a wave, not a tide. Tide can be felt, right? How? Say for example, sometimes you go to the beach, right? So you will feel that sea water is very close to you, right? For example, yesterday you would have come to beach, but means you would have seen that sea water is somewhere far away from this so-called shoreline. Now you are seeing that sea water is very close to you. Right, again you go to beach after somewhere around 6 hours, you will be finding the water has receded, water is somewhere there. Right, every day what happens, the so-called the transitional line between the ocean and the land, right, it keeps moving. Why? Because the level of the so-called level of water itself starts almost fluctuating or oscillating. That's the reason we are using this word called as mean sea level. See, water maintains level. If at all if water maintains level, right, there is no reason for me to use this word called as mean. Mean means what? Average. Why I am using this average? Because I understand every day the water of the sea level will rise or the water of the sea level will fall. If at all if it is rising, I call them as what? High tide. If it is falling, I call them as what? Low tide. So when I talk about mean sea level is always marked between a high tide and low tide. Now this is what you call them as what? Tide. Entire sea will rise, right, or an ocean, or the entire sea or ocean will fall, right. A pulse or a bulge that is created in entire ocean, you call them as what? Tides, my friend. Now comes the question, why do we experience tide? If you ask me definition, the rise and fall of the level of water in the ocean due to the gravitational attraction induced by sun or moon is called as tide. Okay. Now here, this is what the definition says. Now read it. It says, why do we experience tide? It is because of gravitational force of what? Sun. Yes, you call them as what? Solar tide. Gravitational force of moon. Yes, you call them as what? Lunar tide. Right. Between solar tide and lunar tide, if you ask me which is more effective, it is lunar tide. Centrifugal force of earth. Yes. Why? Because, see, whenever, say for example, this is moon, my dear friend. Moon is pulling the water towards it. Am I right? Right, moon is pulling the water towards it. Moon is inducing the gravitational attraction on the surface of the earth, so the water is being pulled. Till which level? Till the level where it cannot surpass the gravitational attraction of what? Earth. Am I right? This is one. You call them as what? Equilibrium is maintained. Now somewhere, right, so I understand one part of earth, the water is being pulled. But earth is a rotating object. Right, weight has to be equally distributed in order to maintain the rotation. So what happens whenever a bulge is created, a tide is created at one place of the earth, on the other side, the equal and opposite bulge is created, my friend. If you ask me, why exactly a bulge is created? See, moon is not pulling here. Moon is pulling only towards its direction, but you will also find an equal and opposite bulge is created. What is the reason for this bulge? This is all because of what? Centrifugal force of earth, my friend. Centrifugal force, right? Because earth is rotating, right? In order to maintain its rotation, right, this weight has to be balanced on the other side, right? Law of equilibrium, right? If that is the case, I understand the centrifugal force of earth also plays a very important role in aiding this concept called as tide. Okay. So what is the answer? It is 1, 2 and 3. I'll tell you one thing. See, if you are very much convinced that 1 and 2 is the answer, right? Here only thing is that every line I am just explaining it. If you are very much convinced that, okay, gravitational force of sun and gravitational force of moon plays a very important role, and if you are not very sure about it, I am not very sure about it. Sun and moon I know. Lunar tide and solar tide I know, but I am not very sure about the centrifugal force. But see the option, right? If you are very much confident and sure that 1 is a right option, 2 is the right option, automatically 3 becomes right option. Sometimes this you call them as what? Lucky. Sometimes what happens, see, that's the reason, what makes the question difficult is not the question itself, is the options. Sometimes what happens, questions, the verbatim, the informations, what it is asked in the question can be difficult, but if you read the answers, it becomes what? Very easy. So this is one such, right, example what I want to tell you. Even if you do not know the statement 3, if you are satisfied 1 and 2 is right, you got the answer, because you do not have any option called as 1 and 2. Okay. So question number 8. Consider the following statement. See, this question again, such a simple question. 2015 this question was asked, such a simple question. But what happens in examination, this question becomes slightly difficult because sometimes what happens, they not only test your knowledge, they also test your pulse, right? See the beauty of the question. Consider the following statement. The winds which blow between 30 degree north and 60 degree south latitude throughout the year are known as westerlies. Okay, such a simple question. When I talk about westerly, if I am just asking you westerly, between which place to which place, right, between which two regions westerly flows, it is between this subtropical high, my friend. Subtropical high is at 30 degree and subpolar low is 60 degree. So, the wind which flows throughout the year in this region, you call them as what? Westerly. You call them as what? Westerly. But see the beauty. They have asked 30 degree north and 60 degree south. Imagine 30 degree north and 60 degree south. Do we have a wind? No. But in examination, what happens? Right. Sometimes what happens, only 30 degree and 60 degree you may read it. Right. This north and south you may not read it. Correct. So examination, please read each and every word. If at all, if you are making a mistake in such type of questions, that's a costly mistake. Very costly mistake. Right. And the beauty, we have also come across students, they are arguing that they have made a printing mistake. In examination itself, they have corrected 30 degree north to 60 degree north, they have corrected themselves and they have made it as what? Right. Okay. UPSC will never make a mistake. Right. Even if it is a typographical error. See, normally we never come across, in recent past we have not come across any errors in question papers. Even if it is there, right, examination, you do not come to the conclusion that this is an out of error, this question is out of error. Please do not come to a conclusion. I am just saying it because we have examples, plenty of examples, not one or two. Right, if it is one or two, I regard it as means almost exceptions. Exceptions are not examples, right? Because we had plenty of such examples, I am just bringing it, right? UPSC never makes a mistake, right? So read it very carefully. Very simple question, but in examination scenario, it may become difficult, okay? So make it simple. Statement 1 is wrong, right? If statement 1 is wrong, right, I understand, right? A cannot be my option, C cannot be my option. My option lies with B and D, right? Either you can treat it as 50-50 or take a decision based on second statement. What is the second statement? The moist air masses that causes winter rains in northwestern regions of India are part of westerlies. Yeah. See what happens? Westerly, 30 degree to 60 degree. In winters, what happens? Slightly the pressure belts will shift south, right? So if that is the case, this wind, right, will almost carry the moisture from Arabian Sea and it will be delivering in what? Right, the northwestern part of India, right. Sometimes you call them as what? Western disturbances. This western disturbances is caused by two phenomena, my friend. One, the westerly wind, and number two, it is also caused by jet streams. Jet stream also causes this western disturbances, right. The winter precipitation in India, particularly northwestern part of India, right, Gujarat, Rajasthan region, it is also, right, resulted by what? Westerly wind, okay, right. So here, the second statement is right, first statement is wrong. So the given option is what? 2 only, right. So moving to 2016 questions. 2016 is not purely geography, it is hybridization, right, with environment, with current affairs information and so on, right. So it says in which of the following regions in India shale gas resources are found? Almost all the regions what it is given. Potential shale gas is also found in what? The Assam region, the Damodar Valley region is also it is found. Otherwise, this is more of a current affairs. All these coastal regions, my friend. Cambay Basin, Gujarat, Kaveri Basins, Tamil Nadu, Krishna and Godavari Basin, right? Andhra Pradesh. All this region has shale gas resources, right? Confirmed shale gas resources, right? So answer is 1, 2 and 3. All. Right. Again, I was talking about the rivers and tributaries. This time what was asked in 2016 was Brahmaputra. Which of the following is a tributary of Brahmaputra? Dibang. Right, Dihang, Dibang and Lohit, three rivers are there. Only if these three rivers confluence, right? The confluence of it, I have the broadest profile called as what? Brahmaputra. So, very important river, Dibang. Right. Lohit, again a very important river. The three rivers which confluence together to form the broadest profile of Brahmaputra, one is Dibang, one is Lohit, another is this river called as Dihang. This river Dihang itself is not nothing but what? The Brahmaputra river. Sometimes also called as Sangpo. So, the Sangpo river when it enters India, immediately it do not takes the name called as what? Brahmaputra. It is called as Dihang. Right. The Dihang, Dibang and Lohit, when it confluence with each other, you have this Brahmaputra. Right. In that regard, Kameng is also a very important right bank tributary of what? Brahmaputra. Almost it originates very near to this place called as Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh. Right. So, here all the given rivers are tributaries of Brahmaputra. So, the answer is 1, 2 and 3. Question number 11. Consider the following statement. See, today after October 2019, Jammu and Kashmir was divided. Otherwise, if you ask me that in India, the Himalayas are spread over, see, this question normally, students generally ask, is it necessary for us to remember all the states where Himalayas is present? I say answer is no. Because, I am just talking about 2017 scenario, my friend, when the question was asked. If you ask me how many states Himalayas is present, according to administrative parlance, right, that is even if you are just searching in PIB, right, we have few schemes which is almost implemented only for Himalayan state. So, when I talk about the administrative classification of Himalayan state, you will be having 12 states. Right. Now, it is only 11 states because Jammu and Kashmir is no more regarded as what state? It is bifurcated as what? The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and what? Ladakh. Otherwise, I am just talking about 2017 scenario. According to PIB informations, right, it is 12 states. According to geographic classification, when I talk about the broad classification, it was 10 states. When I talk about the narrow classification, it is 6 states. Correct? It is 6 states. Whichever classification you can take it, this statement says in India, the Himalayan states are spread over 5 states only. Narrowest classification says 6. Broad classification says 10. Administrative classification says 12. See, questions will be set in such a way that this statement will always be wrong. Correct? Because we do not know, right? That's the reason sarcastically I say that even Himalayas do not know how many states it is present. Correct? So, why to bother about it, right? Now comes the question, how to handle this type of questions, right? See, one, I should know the minimum number of states where Himalayas is present. Minimum number, I am not talking about the maximum number, minimum number. What exactly you may tend to miss, let me tell you, my friends. Let's say, for example, right, say for example, what exactly you are seeing here is Himalayas, right? When talk about Himalayas, right? So, when talk about Himalayas, yes, the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh. The count comes only for 5. But somewhere, I am missing which state? West Bengal, my friend. Most of the time, right, we may find West Bengal because a small extension of West Bengal. See, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, near complete state is Himalayan state. Complete Sikkim is Himalayas. Complete Arunachal Pradesh is Himalayas. But West Bengal is not the case. Part of West Bengal, you have what? Himalayas. Right. In that regard, right, very famous, you call them as what? Darjeeling Hills. When talk about Darjeeling Hills is part of what? West Bengal. It is part of Himalayas. It is extension of Himachal range. So, what we may miss is what? West Bengal. If you add West Bengal, it becomes what? 6. That's what I call them as what? Narrowest classification. If you want to go for broad classification, you have something called as Purvanchal. What is Purvanchal? Eastern Himalayas or eastern hills, you call them as what? Purvanchal. So, all the hills what is there in Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, right, this can also be accommodated in what? the Himalayan extension classification. So that's the reason I said minimum number of states where Himalayas was present during 2017 was 6 states. But if you ask me what is the logic, I'll tell you, let us not complicate it. Let us not complicate it. Right? I strongly believe whenever I come across this word called as only is an absolute word, my friend. Normally I say only do not belongs to geography. Whenever the list is plenty, and if you come across this word called as only, most of the time, 80% of the time, this option will be wrong. Right? You search it, means you yourself, once you start solving the question paper, you will understand that this is what the strategy or technique is all about. See, some risk has to be made. Right? But this risk, what you take in the examination, should be a calculated risk or a rational risk. Right? So, understanding a pattern, somewhere I understand words like only, normally, do not, right, makes the statement correct, right? And that too, with the word of caution, if the list is plenty, right, this only will make this statement wrong, my friends. That's the reason. Whenever you come across the word called as only and the list is plenty, I mark it wrong. Correct? Otherwise, I also, right, logically, factually, I know why the statement is wrong, right? The second statement, the Western Ghats are spread over 5 states only, right? If you had almost accepted the just declared statement, this statement also you will say that this is wrong. Why? Again, the statement, the list is plenty and I have, right, only which is coming. Otherwise, if you ask me, Western Ghats are spread over 5 states only? No. Minimum number of states where Western Ghat is present is 6 states. 6 states, right? When talk about any committee that is constituted for Western Ghats, right, you will be finding 6 states which is given. What are the states? Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, right? All these states which has a coastline in Arabian Sea, right, they also have the presence of what? Western Ghats. If you ask me how many states are there in India which has a presence in Arabian Sea, 6 states. You may argue, no, there is only 5 states, my dear friend. Tamil Nadu also has a coastline with what? Arabian Sea. Kanyakumari district, when I talk about almost, right, places like Kolachal, right, NIM port, what it is coming, right, the Marthandam region side, right, you have a coastline in what? Arabian Sea also, right. So again, let me tell you, this is 6 states, not 5 states. But examination, see, UPSC is not so cold-blooded, correct. So somewhere, some logic has to be there. I am convinced that if the list is plenty, and if at all, if you're coming across this word called as only, most of the time, that's the reason on a safer side I am saying 80%, because tomorrow you should not say that, okay, I have tried it, it went wrong. That can be that another 20%, my friend, right. I am not saying that certainly this statement will be wrong. Probability is very high, right. Now 1 and 2 you have removed, my friends. If that is the case, automatically the third should be a right answer. Pulicat Lake is spread over 2 states only. See, Pulicat Lake is a lagoon. It's a lagoon. What is a lagoon? A lake which is present in the coastline, right, which has an opening with the ocean or a sea. You call them as what? Lagoon, right. Now, when I talk about this lagoon, Pulicat Lake, very famous lagoon or a lake, because along the banks of this Pulicat Lake, you have this very famous site called as Sriharikota, correct? Sriharikota. So, when I talk about this Sriharikota, just very near to Chennai you have, right, few kilometers from Chennai. So, it is almost located in such a fashion that part of this Pulicat Lake is there within Tamil Nadu border, right, Tamil Nadu, and most of the Pulicat Lake, right, it is there in what? Political boundary of what? Andhra Pradesh. So, it is between Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, my friend. Okay. So, the statement 3 is right. So, what is the option? Right, which of the statement given is correct? It is 3 only. Okay. Right. The next question. Question number 12. Second, the tributary of Brahmaputra. I said the Brahmaputra river is important. Not only the river Brahmaputra, the tributary of Brahmaputra is also very important. It is about one very important river called as Teesta. Right. With reference to river Teesta, consider the following statement. The source of river Teesta is same as that of Brahmaputra, but it flows through Sikkim. Completely wrong. Teesta is a very small river. Teesta, if you ask me the source, there is a source called as Zemu Glacier. Right. So, it is from the Zemu Glacier in Sikkim it originates. Where Brahmaputra originates? Mansarovar Lake. where Indus originates, right? Indus and Brahmaputra, they almost originate from the same place, right? So if that is the case, statement 1 is wrong, my dear friend, right? 1 is wrong. So directly in your option, you can remove wherever 1 comes in, you can remove. So what is the option? You have a choice between C and B and C. Both place you have 2. It means what? Even without reading, you can say 2 is correct. Correct? So your option decision will be based on 3. Now read the third statement. River Teesta flows into Bay of Bengal on the border of India and Bangladesh. See, when they say River Teesta flows into Bay of Bengal, they are giving a picture as though this river is an independent river. It directly confluences in Bay of Bengal. No, this is a tributary of what? Brahmaputra. Right, upper course of Brahmaputra means almost upper course of this river itself, right, this Teesta confluences, correct, right, near India, Bangladesh border, right, almost northern Bangladesh itself it goes for a confluence, right, so it is not an independent river, it do not flows into Bay of Bengal, correct, so what is the option, best option is 2 only, right, why I am removing 3, because this is not an independent river, this is the right bank tributary of what, Brahmaputra. Okay, right. Question number 13, right. With reference to Indian Ocean Dipole, this is a current affairs question, but nowadays Indian Ocean Dipole has become so common, right. 2017 it was Indian Ocean Dipole, Modoki, El Nino Modoki, La Nina Modoki, this was more in what current affairs, right, but still understanding. Indian Ocean Dipole sometimes mentioned in news. While forecasting Indian monsoon, which of the following statement is correct? Indian Ocean Dipole phenomena is characterized by a difference in sea surface temperature between tropical West Indian Ocean and tropical East Pacific Ocean. So far it is good. What makes the difference is this statement. See, it is not between Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. It is within Indian Ocean. See, what is El Nino and La Nina? The same phenomena. What is Indian Ocean Dipole in Indian Ocean is very similar to La Nina and El Nino in Pacific Ocean. Or to be very precise, La Nina condition in Indian Ocean, you call them as what? Indian Ocean Dipole, positive phase. El Nino condition in Indian Ocean, you call them as what? Indian Ocean Dipole, negative phase. So what is this positive phase, a negative phase, a dipole, etc. See, for example, same latitudinal waters, my friend. So assume somewhere I am there in tropical waters. I am there in Indian Ocean, tropical waters. Imagine that you are putting yourself in Indian Ocean, right? Here itself you can imagine. One side I have Africa, another side you have what? Australia. So Africa and Australia are there in same latitudes, but the coastal waters of Africa and the coastal waters of Australia will differ in temperature. Comparatively, one side it will be warmer and one side it will be cold. Such situation you call them as what? Dipole. El Nino, La Nina is also a dipole. Right. In that regard, if you ask me Indian Ocean Dipole, it is not between Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean, it is within Indian Ocean. Sometimes what happens, see, positive phase is also given. Positive phase, African side will be warm and Australian side will be cold comparatively. Reverse the condition, African side becomes cold, Australian side becomes warm, negative phase, right. So what makes the statement wrong? Simple, very simple, right. It is not between Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean, it is within Pacific Ocean, my friend. So the statement 1 is wrong. Statement 2, an Indian Ocean phenomena can influence an El Nino impact on monsoon. They say influence. It can have its adverse effect or it can have its positive impact. Both. They are simply saying influence. Right. Whether it almost negates El Nino or it intensifies El Nino, forget about it. It has an influence. Right. Sometimes what happens, it can negate the influence. If you have a positive phase, right, it can negate the ill effects of El Nino. Even El Nino is happening in Pacific Ocean, Indian monsoon will be successful. If you have a negative phase, right, this will intensify the drought-like condition in what? India, right. So somewhere I understand it has a very much influence of, right, of El Nino, of impact of El Nino on Indian monsoon, right. Sometimes it can negate it, sometimes it can aggravate it. So the statement 2 is absolutely right. and statement 1 is wrong. So what is the answer? Answer is 2 only. See, actually I am doing a mistake. What mistake I am doing, let me tell you. I am not reading whether they are asking you to select the correct answer or incorrect answer. In examination, you please do it, right? Because I know, right, the question I am not reading it, right? You please see whether they are asking for a correct or incorrect answer. Sometimes what happens, you would have marked the question correct, but you would have failed to read this question. But UPSC does one good thing. Whenever they use this incorrect, not correct, right, whenever they say incorrect, not correct, whenever they give you this negative words is always given in italics and bold. So it is very normally, or I would say, it is very difficult for you to skip it unless and until you are there in a hurried manner. Say for example, almost towards the end of this paper completion, normally one student will not miss these negative words, right? But still I am just telling you, read it, okay? Question number 14, 2018. Consider the following statement. Actually, this is not purely geographical question, but still, the element of geography is also involved, so I am just bringing in. See, in India, state government do not have powers to auction non-coal mines. Plenty of non-coal mines are there. And they say state government do not have the power. But 2015 it was amended that state government is given the right? It is the duty of the state government to auction what? Non-coal mines, right? It is more of a current affairs information, correct? In that regard, statement 1 is wrong. And when I talk about the geographical aspect of this question, right? Andhra Pradesh and Jharkhand do not have gold mines. Even if you are convinced that either of the state, one state has gold mine, right, this statement becomes wrong because they are integrated by and. It means what? Andhra Pradesh should not have, right, and Jharkhand should also not have. Even if one state has a gold mine, this statement becomes wrong. But see the beauty, both the state has gold mine. So when I talk about gold mines in India, it is very limited, my friends. Karnataka is known for its gold mine. Right, Hatti gold mines, Kolar gold mines, etc. Right. Apart from that, when I talk about the second state which is known for gold mines, Andhra Pradesh, Anantapur district, right, Singhbhum district of what? Jharkhand, right. Even when I talk about the Sonbhadra of Uttar Pradesh, right, Kerala also we have this gold mines, right. Otherwise, I understand Jharkhand and Andhra Pradesh are known for gold mines. What they are saying? They say they do not have gold mines. Exactly opposite to it. Mark it wrong. Rajasthan has iron ores. If you are very convinced that statement 1 and 2 is wrong, directly you got the answer. But still, Rajasthan has iron ore mines. Is there a possibility that Rajasthan can have an iron ore mines, if you ask me? See, when I talk about this iron ore, normally when I talk about the features, my friend, either you will be finding this iron ore in shields or in old fold mountains, my friend. Old fold mountains. Rajasthan do not have a shield, but Rajasthan has old fold mountain, Aravalli. So there is more probability that it can have what? Iron ore mines, right? So answer is 3. Go by logic, let us not go by facts. Question number 15. Consider the following statement. Most of the world's coral reef are in tropical water. See, these are the words. What makes your decision taking almost, I would say, it makes your decision making, right, probability easy. You say most, more, right, they are qualitative terms. They are not giving you in percentage. They are not giving you in facts and figures, right. Sometimes most means what? Majority. Majority of the world's coral reef are in tropical waters. Or I would say, near complete, let me use this statement, near complete coral reefs are there in tropical waters, my friend, right? Tropical, right, means waters, right? If that is the case, automatically, without any second thought, the statement 1 becomes right. Statement 2. More than 1/3 of the world's coral reefs are located in the territories of Australia, Indonesia and Philippines. See here, If they given only Australia, I should think twice. And they are giving only one third. One third is the 33%, right? Approximately 33.33% you can keep it, right? One third, just one third, right? One third. Now they are expanding the scope. See, Australia itself, we have what? The world's largest, right, coral reef in the name of what? Great Barrier Reef. Now they are expanding. See, Indonesia also they have included. Philippines also they have included. So there is a chance that this statement easily becomes true. Correct? So the statement 2 also, that's the reason I am just saying that these are the words which you should look for in the examination, my friend. Qualitative words. Right? Words like more, most, few, only, all, and, or. These are the words what you have to choose it in the examination. This makes a mighty difference in the, right, decision making capacity. Right? So both the statement appears, it is perfectly right. Then comes the third statement. Coral reef host more number of animal phyla than those hosted by tropical rainforest. Coral reef is most of the time is called as tropical rainforest of the ocean, because when I talk about the diversity of life in coral reef, it is plenty. See, when I talk about this animal phyla, known animal phyla, nowadays it means you say that 35 known animal phyla are there. But when I talk about listing, it means most of the sources says it is 34. Right? Keep it as 35. Out of this 35 known animal phyla, subdivision of animal kingdom, 32 animal phyla belong to what? Coral reef, my friend. Out of the 35 known animal phyla, even if you say 34, okay, I agreed. Out of this 35, 32 is confined to what? Coral reef. But when I talk about tropical rainforest, only 9 animal phyla is confined. See the diversity. Life can be plenty in equatorial rainforest accepted or tropical rainforest accepted, but when it comes to animal phyla, there is no comparison. Such diversity we have, such diversity. Aquatic habitat or aquatic diversity is more than what? The terrestrial diversity what we have, right? So all the statement, all these are popular statement, my friend, very popular statement, but still, right, insisting the validity of these popular statements, right, all statement given here are absolutely right. Which of the correct following statement is correct? All 3 are correct, right. Question number 16. Consider the following statements, right. The Earth's magnetic field has reversed every few 100,000 years. See, they say, that's what interesting. They say every few 100,000 years, approximately. They are talking about approximate, again few, correct? What is this Earth's magnetic field? See, for example, you have this something called as North Magnetic Pole, South Magnetic Pole, correct? They are not fixed, right? They keep on, right, moving. The Earth's magnetic field is very dynamic, right? See, what happens normally, we say once in 4.5 lakh years, the North Magnetic Pole will become South Magnetic Pole, and South Magnetic Pole will become what? North Magnetic Pole. It goes for a reversal. It is not fixed. We do not have a fixed time, correct? So it goes for a dynamic, it's highly dynamic. So one thing I understand, it goes for a change. It goes for a reversal, right? So the magnetic property, right, or the magnetic field of the Earth goes for a reversal, my friend, right? Yes. If you ask me, on an average, it is once in 4.5 lakh years, but okay, right? Statement makes it easy, right? Few 100,000 years, or, right? That's what, the qualitative words. Look for the qualitative words, my friend. Statement 2. When the Earth was created more than 4,000 million years ago, right? Or you can call them as what? 4 billion years ago. To be very precise, Earth had its formation somewhere around 4.6 billion years ago, right? There was 54% of oxygen and there is no carbon dioxide. You do not know the fact, but this is very interesting. When I talk about the primitive atmosphere, what had its formation during the proto-Earth period, what was more dominant was carbon dioxide, my friend. Sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide was the most dominating gas, right? Earth is more of carbon dioxide and oxygen was only traces, right? Very little amount of oxygen. See, today if you talk about oxygen, what is the percentage of oxygen we have? 21%. And this is one of the highest in the recent past, right? Recent past in the sense I am just talking about the geological time scale. From the very beginning of the earth till present day I am just talking about. 21 is one of the highest. But read the statement, it is giving the completely other picture. What was dominant, right, they are saying no carbon dioxide. See, absolute word, no carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide was one of the major gas then, right. And they say 54% of oxygen. They say majority, right. What is the reality? What we had is only, right, traces, right. UPSC is giving you two clues. One, either you go by the level of oxygen or you take a decision by carbon dioxide. If both you are not able to take a decision, then it is difficult, correct? So, somewhere it is giving you a clue, my dear friends. So, act on it. I know that it is completely reverse. Both the fact what they have said is, right, different from what exactly was the, right, primitive atmosphere is all about. So, statement 1 is also right. Sorry, statement 1 is right. Statement 2 is wrong. Right, here itself you would have got the answer, correct? But still, we are just going for this third statement, right? Okay. So when I talk about the third statement, when living organism originated, they modified the early atmosphere of the earth. See, what role this living organism has, today also I can say. In general, when I talk about the living organism, not only the, right, say for example, the fauna, flora, everything, right. Say for example, when I talk about the fauna, right, normally what we have, today when I talk about the nature, most of them, right, we inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide along with water vapor, right. So, if somewhere I understand, we are reducing the amount of oxygen in atmosphere and we are increasing the level of carbon dioxide in atmosphere. Somewhere it is being compensated, because I understand more number of trees, right, with the respective nature, right, it turns around. It almost acts as a carbon sink. Right, it almost becomes a lung of the world. Amazon forest, you call them as what? Lung of the world, correct? If that is somewhere I understand, it means the life or living organism, including both flora and fauna, has the capacity to modify the composition of atmosphere, particularly the level of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So, the statement is absolutely valid. When living organism originated, they modified the early atmosphere of what? Earth. See there, if you ask me that how exactly the carbon dioxide in atmosphere was reduced, right, we had this carbon secreting organisms, right, they they inhale more of carbon dioxide and they store it in form of what? Non-atmospheric carbon dioxide is stored in there, right, almost stored by them, right. So, somewhere I understand they had the ability to modify the atmosphere. So, the statement 3 is correct. So, what is the correct option? 1 and 3, my friend. So, question number 17, this is not exactly geography, it is more of environment. In the context of which of the following do some scientists suggest the use of cirrus clouds? Cirrus cloud thinning technique and the injection of sulfate aerosol in stratosphere. This is not in troposphere, it is in stratosphere. What is that? See, generally we have this 3 types of clouds, right? Excuse me. Right, you call them as what? Cumulus clouds. You call them as what? Stratus clouds. You call them as what? Cirrus clouds. The cirrus clouds are high altitudinal clouds. Right, they are called as high altitudinal clouds. Right, they are almost more fibrous in nature, and cirrus clouds normally they do not result in what? Precipitation. Now read the statement. They are saying, right, what is the technique? Means thinning of the cirrus cloud and expanding it. What exactly will be the role played by it? Now here, cloud, my dear friends, they have one very important functions to be performed. You call them as what? Albedo. What is this albedo? Normally when I talk about this insolation, that energy that comes from the sun, right, will be reflected back into the exoatmosphere. Right, it may not allow all the insolation to reach the surface of the earth. It will reflect back. Right. If that is the case, can I say, assume that part of this insolation is reflected back. If that is the case, can I say the net insolation that what earth as a system receives will be marginally less? Cloud plays a very important role. That's the reason whenever I talk about cloudy days, right, cloudy days will be colder. Why? It do not allow the insolation to penetrate. It will reflect back. right? So this is a technique where, right, you call them as what? Environmental engineering, or you call them as what? Climate engineering, my friend. Right, you call them as what? Climate engineering. So what is this climate engineering? So if at all, if you're just increasing this cirrus cloud or this sulfate aerosols, right, in stratosphere, not in troposphere, in stratosphere, it will reflect this cloud back. Sorry, excuse me, reflect this insolation back into the exoatmosphere. So by the time, or if at all, if this process is being almost practiced, it can reduce the temperature of the earth. Right. In the light of the statement, read the statement. Creating artificial rains in some regions. See, sometimes you can, sometimes it can be misleading. Right. If at all, if you want to carefully look at artificial, see, for example, they say sulfate aerosol, right? Silver nitrate particle, electrified sand, you almost, right, you throw it in atmosphere, right, troposphere, to induce what? Artificial rain. But see, my dear friend, this is not in troposphere, it is in stratosphere, correct? So very read it carefully, all the statement you read it, okay? Reduce the frequency and intensity of tropical cyclone, right? Appear stupidity, right? Reducing the adverse effect of solar wind on the earth, right? To somewhat it appears appealing, but here comes the answer, reducing the global warming. See, sometimes you may go for A, but please do read, this is not a practice in troposphere, it is stratosphere. High in atmosphere, these are not rain bearing clouds. Stratosphere itself, normally they do not have cloud. But cirrus, marginally it can have the extension till stratosphere. Okay, right. So this is a technique, climate engineering technique for reducing the global warming, right. Okay. 2019, last year the direct question, easy question that was asked. On June 21st, right, you call them as what? Summer solstice, my friend. To be very precise, it is summer solstice of northern hemisphere. Even generally you call them as summer solstice, yes, right, you can regard it. What is summer solstice? This is the longest day of northern hemisphere, right? So directly they say sun does not set below the horizon at Arctic Circle. Somewhere I can understand this is the day June 21st. So entire Arctic region, my friend, it will experience 24 hours of daylight, correct? It means what? Sun will not set in Arctic region on this day. I am not talking about poles only. I am talking about entire Arctic region. Directly you got the answer. Sun do not sets in Arctic region or Arctic Circle. Sun do not set below the horizon. What is horizon? The line, say for example, standing at place, you can find somewhere the outer surface of this earth, my dear friend, right? You can see somewhere, everywhere it is visible. If you're there standing in the seashore, very much it is visible, right? You can see a curvature. This curvature is the one where the sun will rise or sun will set, correct? This is what you call them as what? Horizon. So the sun will not set below the horizon on this particular day. Yes, directly you got the answer. What exactly is the other meaning? What is the meaning of other statement? If you want, you can read it. Sun do not sets below the horizon at Antarctic Circle. If you ask me on which day this occurs, it occurs on what? December 22nd or 23rd. Sun shines vertically overhead at noon on equator. This position we call them as what? Equinox position, my friend. Equinox occurs twice a year, that is March 21st and September 23rd it occurs. Sun shines vertically overhead at Tropic of Capricorn. Cancer is June 21st, Capricorn is December 22nd, correct? 4 very important positions of a year with respect to sun's vertical rays, right? So here directly we got the answer, but still I am just telling you that what exactly is the meaning of other statement, right? The last question, right, for our discussion today, very interesting question. Why dewdrops are not formed on a cloudy night? See, when dewdrops normally, see for example, what is a dewdrop, right? You will be finding water droplets, even your parked vehicles will be having water droplets, right? Grasses, plant leaves will be having this water droplets. So this is very common during winters, my friend, winters. So if you ask me when exactly these dew drops will be formed, you call them as what? On ground condensation. So, when the air mass with moisture comes into contact with extremely cold land, right, what happens? It almost, see for example, I have water vapor in air mass, right, I have some mass of an air, right, water vapor is there, water in gas means in a form of gas. When this water vapor, air mass with water vapor comes into contact with the land, what happens? It almost encounters something called as what? Contact cooling, right, transfer of heat will take place. So what happens? The water vapor will go for a condensation. This condensation will take place over the land itself, right, over the means anything, right, you call them as what? Hygroscopic nuclei, right, a plant, a leaf of the plants, right, even the vehicles, if you're almost parking your vehicles outside, right, outside your house, during winters you'll be finding these water droplets which is formed, right, very simple. During winters you will be experiencing. Now the question is, why during a cloudy night it will not happen? Now what happens, my dear friends? Normally night time what happens? The surface of the earth will liberate the heat that is absorbed during the daytime. Daytime also it liberates heat. But what happens? The insolation will be more than the radiation. The energy received from the sun will be more than the energy that is released by the earth. See, earth is not releasing its energy. Whatever the energy that is absorbed by the sun is released by earth. Correct. So what happens? This heat that is liberated by this earth, we call them as what? Terrestrial radiation, or simply you call them as what? Radiation. You call them as what? Terrestrial radiation or radiation, right? Now this radiation is nothing but what? Heat that is liberated back, my friends. See, when I talk about cloud, what happens? We said whenever you have cloud, what will happen? The temperature will reduce. But during which time? Only during the morning time. When sun is there, cloud will reflect the insolation. Thus, it reduces the day temperature. But the same cloud, during the night time, what will happen? This will not allow the heat to escape to exoatmosphere. The heat that is liberated by the surface of the earth will be re-radiated back, or it will be reflected back. Right, it will be reflected back to the surface of the earth. So I understand the heat that is liberated by earth will not escape to the exoatmosphere. As the case, what happens? The night temperature will increase. Practically, if at all, if you have a cloudy nights, right, if you have cloudy nights, right, say for example, freshly formed cloud, right, you will start sweating. Right, why? Because I understand it will increase the temperature. Why? The heat liberated by the earth do not escape. It gets reflected back by clouds. So what is the conclusion? Cloud has a dual role, my friends. During the daytime, cloud will reduce the temperature, but the same cloud during the night time will increase the temperature. What is the condition needed for dewdrops formation? Low temperature. What clouds in the night will do? Increase the temperature. Right, that's the reason, right, normally cloudy nights will not result in what? Dew or frost formation, right. Now read the statement. Cloud absorbs the radiation released from the earth's surface. It do not absorbs, it reflects back. Cloud reflects back the earth's radiation. You got the answer, correct? Right, directly. If you want to read the other statement, you can read it, but otherwise directly you got the answers, right. Now these are some of the questions. I am not discussing all the questions which is asked. These are some of the questions which is asked, right, between 2015 and 2019. I want to put a point that knowing the factual information is not needed always, right. Look for some of the very important keywords, right. You call them as what? Operative words in the examination. Operative words will help you in making an effective decision. This is one side. Number two, even if you come across a situation like 50-50, please do answer it. Because the probability says, right, always you will end up at having positive marks. 50-50 will never give you a negative mark, provided your approach is correct. So thank you, my dear friends. Right, once again, we'll almost meet for some other videos of such kind. Thank you.